So most people know what they should be doing with money. Save, budget, pay debt, buy cappuccinos, but still feel anxious and stuck and I guess even ashamed a lot of the times. And that's where financial coaching comes in. And today we are going to explore how tackling the emotional side of money can unlock confidence, action, and real progress for your clients. And today, happy to have a special guest with us, Samantha Sparkes, and I look forward to a fantastic episode. Welcome to PROpulsion, the weekly show for financial planners and advisors who want to build better, more successful businesses. I'm your host, Francois du Toit, and every week we dive into the practical strategies that matter, from growing your client base and improving your services to developing yourself and your team. Whether you're running your own practice or you're part of a larger firm, you are guaranteed to find actionable insights to help your business thrive. So with that, welcome, and let's get into today's episode. Fantastic, right? So today I'm excited to welcome Samantha Sparkes. She's a personal finance coach with a master's in industrial psychology and specialist training in financial coaching. Having faced her own financial fears during divorce and single motherhood, Sam now helps women change their money stories, build confidence, and learn the practical skills that lead to financial security. So Samantha, or Sam, as I've come to know you, warm welcome to PROpulsion Live.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And I must say the fact that it is live is absolutely terrifying. There's no editing available to me. So, phew.
That's how it goes, eh? But you'll see by the end of this, by the second question, we're into it and things just run smoothly and you forget that others exist and it's just you and I having a conversation. So it's going to be fun and I'm really looking forward. And I'm glad that we have a bit more time today to actually maybe get a little bit more into things and get through more of the questions that I've got for you. But I think it'll be good for us to start right at the beginning because there might be some people here who are avid, because that's usually the case. When we talk about certain topics, the people who are fans of those topics tend to show up. But we want to get the message out to more people, right? So let's just start there at the beginning. What exactly is financial coaching in your own words?
Okay. So my definition for myself, it's the psychology of money. So as you said, I've got a background in psychology. And when I learned that there was such a thing as financial coaching, I was so excited about it because it brings in two things I'm very passionate about, is understanding the human psyche and human behavior, and then personal finance, which, you gave a little bit of an indication of my personal story, coming from a position of divorce, being completely not well off at all, trying to pick up the pieces after that. So it brings in the two things that I'm very passionate about. And what financial coaching does is it helps a person to improve their relationship with money. It helps them to get more discipline around it. And a big component of it is financial literacy.
And how is it different then from financial advice? Because you're not a financial advisor, right?
No.
So in your mind, how is it different from financial advice? And I mean, do you find that clients get confused between the two, or is it very clear about what's happening? Sort of just maybe your view around those two as well. Because I think financial coaching is one of those things, like, people hear the word coaching and everybody's again got their own idea around it. So I think the way that you word it is absolutely amazing. But then what is the distinction between that, helping people with their money stories basically, and then looking at it from a financial advice point of view, like where's the line and what's the difference?
Yeah, that line is a very clear one. When you study financial coaching, you really have to understand your mandate properly. And I think financial advice is very much a governed, licensed, accredited profession. And what's different with financial coaching is we look at the messy human emotions behind the money. So we look at the behavior of a person. We look at their money stories. We look at their the baggage that they have with money and their dysfunctional behaviors that they've got, such as impulsive spending, helping them. In a way, this is probably not the right thing to say, but I always think of it as reparenting my clients who haven't had good role models when it comes to money, and helping them to develop the discipline and helping to educate them around how we can use money to serve us better. So the distinctions are very clear. I will never offer advice. I will never say, buy this and this and this retirement annuity. What I will do is I will help my client to understand that one should be providing for retirement, and that a financial advisor, this is their scope. This is something that they offer. But what I do is I help a person to be ready, to be able to understand that retirement is inevitable. They're going to have to start setting aside money for that. That is a wise thing to do with our money. So, there's the one is the more transactional, technical side of money. And then I think of what I do is I deal with the messy human emotion component of it.
Yeah, that's very well put, because that is a challenge, right? And I think often clients do not see the value of a financial advisor or a financial planner, for that matter. And part of it is probably, I think there's sort of two sides to that. Maybe the one side is that they will never see the value of financial advisor, because they yourself kind of people. And then there's other people who might start seeing the value once they understand why they behave in a certain way, etc. But let's in a little bit into the please.
Can I just say that you said people, my kind of clients might not approach a financial advisor. My kind of clients are terrified of financial advisors. It is, they almost feel like they're going to be exposed because they are so nervous about money, and they feel that they've made, some quite bad decisions in the past. So they're intimidated. So they might approach a financial advisor, but they might not be emotionally ready for that.
Yeah, and that's sort of actually my next question. If we can delve in a little bit more into the emotional side of money. And I guess the very first question, obviously a lot of people feel a lot of anxiety, but very much more maybe shame even than probably the shame that then leads to the anxiety, that then leads to not doing anything about it. Yeah. As a financial coach, how do you create a safe space for them to start dealing with those things, or to face those?
I think we start off incredibly slowly. We start off trying to build trust, and we start off very, very gently. So before someone has their first proper session with me, I give them quite a lot of homework to do in projective techniques, trying for them to come to terms with some of the scars, some of the baggage that they have with regard to money, maybe from their upbringing or from difficult things which has happened in their adult life. So we start off really small. And, I also share part of my story. A lot of my clients really identify where I came from and how I experienced money and how I've managed to progress to where I am now. So we start off small, and it's very much a systematic approach. So we have these little building blocks, but the building trust with my client is the most important thing.
I guess that's the interesting thing, right? It's exactly the same, because if you're in anything to do with money, has to be built on trust. I think it doesn't matter actually where in the profession you play from that point of view. But also everything that we're talking about, obviously there's emotions involved. And emotions are really the things, logically we can figure things out for ourselves, but then the emotional, that's almost like the in my mind, the saboteur of the of the whole action film here. It's the emotions. And how, I mean, can you give some practical, maybe just stories or examples of how those things play out and what it would look like in practice, so you can sort of, maybe by having a conversation with the client, start identifying that there's deeper things at play here?
Yeah, look, I mean, emotions lie behind all of our financial decisions. And, you know, a lot of my clients, they might have the knowledge. They might have read a book on personal finance. Some of them come to me and they've done a course on personal finance, like an online learning course or something, but they just cannot implement that advice. They know what they should be doing. They know that they should be trying to tackle their debts. They know that they should be saving. They should have investments. They should be putting money aside for their children's future, etc., but they can't do it. They've got these massive blocks. So I run a series of between 6 and 8 sessions as an initial guide, and we really start to unpack the emotions that people have around money, and we start to get them ready to be able to cope with that and to make those wise financial decisions. If I think about a particular client of mine, if you want a practical example, let's call her Lily. So she was referred to me by Susan Mercer, who is a financial advisor who studied with me at the University of the Free State. And so she knows where financial coaching comes in and how it can be supportive. So she recommended that Lily come and see me. And when I started off with Lily, what became incredibly evident is that her self-limiting beliefs started off in childhood. So it was interesting when Ichno's clip came in. I hadn't seen it before, and he was talking about a halo and a noose. So for Lily, the noose was this family narrative that they are terrible with money. So Lily came from a mother-headed household, and it was just her and her sisters. And they had this family narrative: we are terrible with money. We don't know how to manage it. And Lily found herself waking up in her late 40s with nothing set aside for the future, and no savings, some debt. And Susan asked me to work with her just to get to a point where she could start investing in, just maybe a retirement annuity, maybe tax-free savings. And she wasn't in that place at that time. So we started off very basically, just to be exposed to your own numbers. You know, a lot of my clients are afraid to open their bank statements. They feel so out of control that they so terrified with what the reality is. So I really sit with them, handhold. We look at budgets. We start to put budgets in place. So I even get to the point for them where we look at where's your money going, and we have raucous debates about which subscriptions are required, which subscriptions aren't required, with the objective of freeing up cash for a number of wise decisions to be made. With Lily, we got to the point where she was a lot more excited and open to the future. She had been very much dreading what the future was going to hold for her. She started to be able to purchase certain products, and her mindset started to change about money. And I could see the positive impact it was having with her whole family. So with her sisters and her mom, she started to have these conversations, and to the point where after a long dry spell in her personal life, she met the man of her dreams. And where we're at currently now is helping the two of them navigate my money, your money, our money, that terrible mess and conflict that comes when two individuals come together with different money personalities.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I mean, like, I guess the question that sort of I'm listening to like Susan recognizing that there's something else that needs to be done here, handing it off to you. So she knew what financial coaching was because you said you studied
Yeah.
together. She chose not to work with them in that way, but to rather hand it off to somebody who only does that. I think the natural inclination in financial planning and advice in like globally, but I mean I would say definitely in South Africa from my experience is that as financial advisors and planners, we often want to do everything ourselves. So I want to learn how to be a coach. I want to learn how to be a good financial planner. I want to learn how to be a great businessman. I want to like all of these things.
Mm.
And I guess it's horses for courses, I would assume. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's not necessary for an advisor or a planner to want to build these skills and do everything themselves. There's sort of two ways that you can go about this. And I mean, just maybe from your side, how did you find, or I mean, how did Susan now come back into that picture? Because now you're working with them on this,
Mm.
and then obviously
Yeah.
Susan should be and must be part of that process. But how does that work now, where she basically outsourced this to you, and you doing your
Yeah.
work, and she focuses on what she wants to do? So what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because Susan's her website is wealth coaching. So she does have people who approach her who want just coaching. But she's got such a busy financial advisory practice that even though she's got the skills to do the coaching, she doesn't necessarily have the time. But because of her studies, she realizes the benefits of coaching. So how it works is when she recommends a client to me, they remain her client. So I work on a very different level with the client. And I also work on a very different like fee structure. So I'm not commission based. I am paid per session, and we keep in contact with the client because it is her client that I am working with to become a more a client who's able to do more wise decisions, who's able to stick to the plan, who's able to have more discretionary income to be able to invest in better products for themselves to protect themselves and their family.
Thanks, So, I mean, let's get a little bit into the sort of the practical side of it. There's sort of two things that if I'm hearing you correctly, and if I'm listening properly, that there's sort of two parts to the process that the coaching focuses on. There's the educational part, teaching them skills and knowledge and things. But as you said, many of them already have the knowledge. They're just not, their behavior is sort of doing something different. And then the other side to it is the emotional side and managing those emotions and helping them understand and then changing or using that to change their behaviors. How do you balance that teaching with addressing the emotions kind of thing? Like how does that work?
Yeah. Well, we start on an emotional, psychological level. So we really start from your childhood, your money story, your money personality. We've got various psychometric tests for money personality. We go into what are the behaviors that are driving you crazy as a client. So very often things like impulsive spending, not being able to say no to your family. We deal with quite a lot of those. It's almost like the first 3 sessions with homework in between is actually just about understanding your as is picture. And then we go more then into the goals, and we go from the noose to the halo. What excites you? What do you want to achieve for yourself and your family? So we start off when it's not gentle, because it's not gentle at all, but we start off with the softer stuff, and then we move into skills such as how to create a budget, how to stick to a budget, how to start paying off debt, So we move into that, but it's never then, okay, we're going to stick to budgeting now. Because for a lot of people, for example, budgeting brings up all of those childhood emotions about lack. You know, you not being the kid who could have the expensive tackies, or you were the kid who couldn't go on school trips because your family couldn't afford it. So it's never just a skill. It's a skill which is intertwined with all the emotions and all the messiness of the human experience. So then I have to deal with that as they arise. And very often what you might see as reluctance or resistance, there is an emotional reason behind it. And we have to uncover that before we can move on to the next tool, the next skill, the next technique.
Yeah. And then, like, I want to make it a little bit more practical. So the psychometric testing side of it, I mean, client fills it in. There's a report. If I recall from what I've seen before, it is like there might be a version that goes to them, and there's a different version that comes to you, because you look at it from a different point of view. But they also need to understand what they're reading. So they sort of those two, and then there's a conversation that takes, place off the back of that. What kind of questions? Like if you start unpacking their childhood stories, sort of seeing what's happened and understanding where they're coming from, and what might be influencing this, what maybe a couple of types of questions that you would ask in those early stages to start to one build the confidence, build the trust, and get them to open up to you, but also to extract very valuable information at the same time.
Yeah. A lot of it is just about asking the right questions. So you really just start off with, what was money like in your family? How was money spoken about? Did your parents speak about money? Did they fight about money? When did you first become aware of what money was? When did you spend your first money? What social economic class were you from, and how did that make you feel? So we really go into those deeper questions, but then people also don't know what they don't know. So if I see that someone might be having, for example, an impulsive spending problem, it's for them to journal around that. And then we will go right down to the nitty gritty. So you overspend this month on clothing. What did you buy? So you bought a black dress. How many other black dresses do you have in your cupboard? What did that black dress symbolize to you? And then it comes up about wanting to, for example, look the part, for people to respect you. And then you go into, so where in your previous life did you feel that you were disrespected, and how does money act as a proxy for respect for you? And it's not so easy to do this if you don't have a strong coaching background. So that's why some financial advisors find it quite out of their comfort zone, is to start asking all of these questions in a coaching manner that is going to elicit the real underlying baggage and challenges that client is experiencing.
Here's a random question just in between, right? Before I go into the next, because that's very, very valuable. But here's a random question that just popped into my head.
Mm-hmm.
If I think about I don't know much about your story, Samantha, but I mean the little bit that I know about the challenges that you've had with going through divorce and being a single mom and having your own things to go through. Do you think something that lived experience is really necessary to be, does it make you a better financial coach in this instance, because you've gone through a similar thing than many of your clients maybe have a different level of understanding of where they are coming from, or is lived experience, is it a bonus? Is it a necessity? Is it,
Yeah. No, it's definitely not a necessity. Anyone can coach. You don't have to even be a subject matter expert to be a really good coach. What I find is, because my clientele is mostly women, and I also work with couples, is that they appreciate that I have my own war stories. And sometimes they will read my website and read my life story and identify with me because they might feel that I will come from a place of non-judgment, for example. And I haven't, I've set myself up as someone who is just as flawed and just as vulnerable and has also made stupid financial decisions, but that there is hope. And what these guys are looking for is hope. They want someone to tell them that they're okay, they're going to be fine, and if they just work the program, life will turn out fine, because they are when they come to me, they're in a great deal of pain. So to answer your question, it's not necessary, but in my practice, it helps a lot.
Thanks for that. And let's talk a little bit about challenges and objections, or things that make it a little bit harder to work with people sometimes, and also the challenges and obstacles that people face a lot of the times. And I guess one of the things I want to ask you before I get into that is also, I mean, I know that you prefer to work with women, and you also mentioned that you also do work with couples. In that scenario, though, of working with couples, do you find that women are more open to this kind of thing and men are more like resistant to that, or does it very much depend on them as a couple and sort of their view of the world and what they are trying to achieve? Or is it usually that one person wants to fix this and the other one is tagging along, whichever one it might be? But what does that look like in real life?
I love my work with couples. I think it is more important even than dealing with the one-on-one, because the individuals who come to me, they're only half of the problem if they're in a relationship, obviously. So when the two of them come together, then all of the dynamics are exposed. And it's fairly typical for the woman to take a secondary role in the finances in the relationship. Not always, but it seems to be fairly predominant. But then I also find when we dig into things that actually the husband would love the wife to be more informed, to care more about it, to help making the decision, because very often that husband is carrying the burden of the family's future by himself, and he would love to have more of a equal relationship when it comes to personal finance and making those decisions. So when that is brought out, and all of the boundaries are renegotiated, and they start to work on things together, like having money dates and talking about the budget and talking about their spending plan, then things start to improve. And it's funny, when things are going well with regard to money, things really improve in that couple's quality of life.
Yeah, that's so important. And do you see, like, is there a difference between the way that, let's just say you work with a woman or a couple, and whether they are employed people or whether they are entrepreneurs? Do you see different kinds of challenges? Is it all the same thing? Like, are there any nuances between those?
I actually have a lot of people that I work with who are entrepreneurs, and that struggle is real. It's on a different level. There's a lot of fluctuation in income, and if I just talk about the individual female clients that I have in the entrepreneurial space, couple of things that they do wrong. One of the things that they do wrong is not to separate business and personal finances. It is all one big mess. And I even have a client who has a PTY limited, who wasn't aware that there's a whole lot of statutory regulations around this and additional help required from an accountant. And so it's to really separate out the business and personal, and then to help them to weather all of the seasonal fluctuations, for example. So to have a buffer account, to pay themselves a set salary, to have a very strong emergency fund, to have a budget for business and a budget for personal. A lot of them don't even know that you're supposed to do these things. They don't even know that it's best practice. They are just muddling along to the best of their ability, trying to earn a living when maybe they had been looking for employment and the default was being an entrepreneur. And obviously, I can only talk for my clients. There are lots of very successful entrepreneurs out there who've managed to get this right and who are making a killing. But for my clients, it's a lot more messiness seems to come in the entrepreneurial space than to come into the maybe corporate executive space. And how that plays out in a couple. Well, I've got one couple client where the wife is an entrepreneur and the husband has the set salary. And it causes such a huge amount of disagreements because, when money is flush with the wife, then it's holidays and it's Toblerone chocolate instead of Beacon. And in the lean months, then it's back to, bread and water. And that leads to so many arguments. So it's about to try and get some sort of stabilizing practices in place for them.
Look, I understand the world of the entrepreneur intimately. I have had a good run at it, and many of the things you're talking about are like those are my first. Well, in this venture I'm in now, like the first 5-6 years, like although. I think we had things in place, but there were so many things. You're just trying to survive, and you should do this, but you do that, and then but once you get those things in place and the structures in place, and you do all the things that you were talking about, there's a kind of peace that comes with that.
Yeah.
That you actually can't explain to someone unless they experience that, right? So structures, knowledge, excuse me, all those things are so important. And
I also find with entrepreneurs is they are reluctant to invest in long-term policies, for example, like a retirement annuity, because they don't know if they're going to be able to sustain those monthly costs. So they're reluctant to go into it. It's like everything. They would rather rent than buy a property because they want things to be a lot more flexible. So they're not as, in my experience, as amenable to the financial advisory than they are. They just try and manage everything themselves. So it's very tricky with entrepreneurs.
Yeah. There's so many things that play there. Let's quickly talk about coaches and advisors collaborating and working together. I mean, I guess the question is, why should they collaborate? Why should they? Because let's just assume that somebody is not interested. Like somebody's sitting here, this coaching thing, not for me. So they're a bit skeptical on the one end. Or there's people here that will say like, oh, this is like something that I don't want to do that. I don't have the time. I don't have the inclination. I don't like the emotional side of it. I'm a very practical person. Why and how does an advisor or a planner collaborate with a coach, and what does that interplay look like?
Yeah. I kind of see us as two halves of a whole. You can have the best financial plan, you can have the best advice possible, but if someone is unable, unwilling, incapable of following through on that advice, it's not time well spent having put that all together. So it works really well when advisors and coaches work together for particular clients. So not every client needs coaching. Many clients, I would imagine, who come to financial advisors have their ducks in a row, and they are they definitely don't require coaching. But you get some clients who are just not meeting their full potential, or who are reluctant and resistant to the advice that is being given. There might be a coaching opportunity there. You might find with a couple that you're dealing with a couple that there is such a disconnect between their relationship with money and their money behaviors and their money scripts, that finding common ground is incredibly difficult. So you're not going to play marriage advisor as well as financial advisor, but that is where coaching can play a really good role in improving that relationship, getting them on the same page, and getting them ready to commit to the same goals and to a pathway to achieve those goals.
Amazing. So what would be, I mean, obviously I can see, like Neil asked, like, oh, how do they get in touch with you? And like, if they've got clients with a need, or they ever need to work with clients in this way, how can people get in contact with you, or follow you, or learn more?
I'm on LinkedIn. I have a website, Samantha-Sparkes.com. And if they want to learn more about financial coaching, Hendrik Crawford is amazing. He runs, I did his 12-month program at the University of Free State. He's got purpose-driven financial coaching, like a little group that he works with. I would love for financial advisors to test the waters, get a financial coach to support them and assist them, and let's start working together. Financial coaching is brand new in South Africa. The UFS course has it launched in 2023, so we are really at the beginning. And I would hope that financial advisors would see financial coaching as a secret weapon to improve their practice.
Amazing stuff. Is there any question that you hoped that I would ask and wanted me to ask that I probably didn't ask? Well, we have a bit more, like a couple of minutes still. Is there any question that you wish I asked you that I didn't?
No, but maybe there's a question from the audience that I could answer.
Well, let me grab a look. There's a lot of comments here. But no real questions. I guess let me ask you this. What excites you most about where the field of financial coaching specifically is going? And do you see it as a complete specialization field, or do you see it as an add-on that advisors can bring in-house for themselves? From that point of view, like maybe those two questions rolled into one.
Okay. What I'm most excited about is the whole couple coaching, because I really believe that, given the divorce statistics and the fact that money is at the root of a lot of marital discord, I also believe that personal therapy is not necessarily geared to help people with money. I'm very excited about that, because I also believe that couples should have a joint financial plan. They should see their advisor together. They should be equal partners in their futures together. And I believe that financial coaching has got a very important role to play in that. Sorry, I forgot. What is the second part of your question?
No, I also can't remember.
I think we need another cup of coffee.
Yeah, but it's good. We can end there. I'm going to say to you, massive thank you, Samantha. It was really awesome to talk to you on the show. Thank you for taking the time to join us today, for everything that you shared. You really got a gift in sharing. I just want to share that with you as well, if I may. So thank you very much for that. And please go and connect with her on LinkedIn. Have a look at the website, and learn more about Samantha, and now she can maybe help you and your clients. If you're not, even if you want to understand what that journey is like to become a financial coach, I'm pretty sure she'll be happy to chat to you as well. But Samantha, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Fantastic. Another good show. There's the goosebumps. Can you see them? No, you can't. Goosebumps. That was fantastic. So, Samantha, once again, thank you very much to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us today. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. And until then, you know what to do, right? Stay safe, be blessed and prosper, and continue to raise the bar. And very importantly, stay tuned. Love you lots. Thanks for joining us on PROpulsion. If you found value in today's episode, then there's plenty more where this came from. You can find all our previous episodes right here on the podcast, as well as on our YouTube channel. And talking about the YouTube channel, we go live every single Friday at 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. and we host many different guests, and we also talk about very interesting topics. And on the live show, there's also some incredible segments hosted by some of the most well-known and influential financial planning professionals. So you are most welcome to join us every single Friday. Put it in your diary and we will see you there. And on that note, also please do check out propulsion.co.za/community for all of the goodness and learn more about how you can become part of our amazing community and how that would benefit you, your business and your career. So on that note, stay curious and keep raising the bar.